We both went in there just ready to go. We were ready to go toe to toe, like like
WWE here in San
I'm very
Antonio.
passionate.
Hey guys, how's it going? Today I am here with Pharaoh Clark, District 2 candidate for San Antonio, Texas. Today we're just going to be interviewing him, seeing how he's doing, and getting to know him on a deeper level, as well as asking a bunch of questions that are related to everything that is going on right now. Especially since the election is going to be on May 1st. Don't forget to vote, even for local politics. They are super important, whether it's in San Antonio or if you're in some other state or some other city. Hey, don't forget to vote. If you need to get registered, look up registration. Vote.org is a great one, or look up any local voting organization in your city, and I'm sure they can help you out. Having said that, if you guys have any comments or anything that you guys want to ask Pharaoh Clark that we didn't cover in this interview, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'm sure Pharaoh Clark will answer them and stuff like that. If anything, I will message him and be like, hey, answer this stuff right now. But yeah, so without further ado, this is Pharaoh Clark. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. Um, just I want to get the ball rolling. So first off, let's just start with the foundation of why did you even want to run for city council? Like, what made you want to run for District 2?
I just think that we're at a crucial point in our time right now where we're at the precipice of a lot of change. And I feel that we're either going to go forward when it comes in regards to civil rights, or it's going to go backwards, swinging the opposite way. So I feel that it's a very important time in history. And I just feel that we need somebody that in leadership that's going to have a voice that's not going to be afraid to speak what they feel, and that can get some things done. And I feel that I have a track record in doing that, and that I would be the person to best do that for this district.
Okay, okay. Speaking of that track record a little bit, I know recently, so we had a storm here for anyone who doesn't know in San Antonio, Texas. We had a massive storm. I know our water pipes broke and we didn't have
Oh,
electricity for
man.
6 days. Yeah, so it was bad. We didn't water and electricity. Very hard to get. We saw failure in our leadership in both a few council members and in a few of our governors and stuff like that. I mean, the Ted Cruz memes were crazy, but you, along with I think the current district councilor one, you guys went out immediately, almost like day one, with like relief, food, water, housing. You guys were on it, like just
Yes.
like immediately. You were like instantly. I saw like all the posts, all the messages. I think it got some news coverage. You guys were just out there, like.
Yeah, well, starting from the very first night, I started to receive comments. I'm one of the people that puts my number out, so a lot of people in the
Yeah, like, kind of like, maybe on a certain YouTube video that we did last time where you just randomly announced without
yeah,
any warning.
exactly. So I get all types of calls just out of the blue for different things, and it's no problem at all. I welcome it. But I started getting calls immediately from people, and the stories that I was hearing were just like they were heartbreaking. People were calling, telling me the temperatures inside their house were at like 48, and this was at the beginning. Some of them got down to like 26 degrees inside the house.
Yeah.
They had no food, no water. So there was a lot of different stories that we were hearing, and so we're like, wait a minute, what's going on? There's no infrastructure or anything in place. So immediately, that same night, we were already making calls and trying to reach out to
Wow.
all the different people that we could. And the moment the sun rose the next day, we were out on the streets trying to make sure that we could affect as many people as possible. And I mean, we were out there when we were sliding over the roads trying to make sure that we were getting there, as safe as possible, but still trying to get this stuff because these people were in desperate need. A lot of them were senior citizens or folks with disabilities.
Mhm.
And I mean, some of them thought they were literally going to die. So it was a massive failure.
Yeah. It was very devastating. I believe some people did die. They like I believe like after like day 2 or 3 they found dead bodies in downtown and stuff like that, which it is just really sad how poor our infrastructure is and how little we actually take care of the city during a crisis. So like hearing that, because I like that took me by surprise. I was like feeling unwell during that time, and I know we were hitting 8 degrees within our own place because we didn't have any heat or anything like that. We had tons of blankets though, so we were fine, and candles, of course.
8 degrees though, that's pretty cold for inside.
Yeah, but it was crazy because there are people who just don't have the luxury of even having a roof or anything like that. And so I know there was you, the Austin Mutual Aid Fund. I know there was Black and a bunch of other communities that were trying to find housing, negotiating with hotels for referrals. And so it was great to see the community come together, especially a community that has like normally like been like pushed on and demonized in some aspects versus others, which is a whole nother conversation of itself. So I guess I gotta ask you then, because I feel like this does kind of answer the question, but I guess we can go a little bit further into it. What makes you so much different than any other of the candidates for District 2, right? Ignoring the rest of the districts and the rest of the councilors that are currently elected, what makes you stand out from the other counselors that you are going against?
One thing I think is I have a proven track record. I have
Mm-hmm.
a track record that goes all the way back to 2017 in this city when it comes to advocating for civil rights
Mm-hmm.
and for getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a proven track record that has gotten things done. We've been instrumental in not only getting several statues removed. We've been instrumental in a lot of the other things like the ending the chokeholds, the no knock warrants, the creation of the district attorney's first civil rights investigation division.
Mm-hmm.
We were instrumental in the reopening of the Marquise Jones case here.
Oh yes, that's
Um,
right. That's actually still ongoing right now, right?
Yeah, well, we're going to continue to push for those type of situations until we feel that the families see justice. And I think that's one of the things that makes me so different is I'm very relentless and we continue to push and push and push. But at the same time, we always are willing to do it in a way in which we're willing to sit down and have a conversation. We're willing to come to the rooms. We make our noise in the street, but we're also willing to come and sit down and say, okay, if you're listening, then you've heard us. You know what we want. Now let's show you how, or let's talk about how we can get it done. And I think that that's one thing that kind of sets me apart. Another thing is 24/7 representation.
Yeah.
I feel that serving any district, but especially a district like District 2 that has been, so heavily neglected. I feel that we need leaders that are going to be accessible 24 hours a day and not juggle us between other full-time jobs and things of that nature. The district has to be your primary concern, and you can't serve the district fully while you're serving another full-time job. I've committed to being full-time service to the district.
Just absolute dedication, 24 hours,
It,
just throwing yourself into the fire
it
that like
has
no
to
one else
be.
wants to walk into.
It has to be. If you look at one of the reasons why we were so effective during our marches and our protests was
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that it was unrelentless work. This was stuff we were out, and I know because you were out at many of the things too. But we were
Yeah.
working 15 hours, 17 hours a day, every day, nonstop, for a minimum of maybe 4 or 5 months, nonstop, 15 hours a day, every day. And I'm not saying that that's always the level of how you have to operate, but you have to have dedication to the cause that is so extreme that you're willing to get what you need done at any cost, because that's the type of relentlessness and resiliency that is going to make people pay attention and say, hey, let's address the needs of this community. And so I've proven that I've done that. I've gotten so much done in civil rights. It's monumental as far as this city is concerned because no one's pushed the bar that far.
So I saw your platform and I saw like the things that you want to change and things you want to implement. So I want to know in more detail if you can explain the plans behind some of these things that you want to do. So we'll start with the first one that I got on here, which is how do you plan to increase jobs, specifically within District 2?
Right. So there's three things that I want to try to focus on in the job creation area. And it doesn't mean that this is the only thing, but these are three areas that I see that are, areas that can be addressed.
Okay.
One is the expansion of workforce development programs that not only train people for higher paying jobs, but also accompanying those with job placement. So not only training people to work, but guaranteeing a job when they come out of those programs. And I know we've heard of different programs that have come up in the past similar, but I would like to make sure that we go a little bit more in depth in making sure that when you come in the program, it's going to be successful from beginning to end, and that there's actually going to be a job available for you when you get out of those programs. So we have programs in place, but I feel they need a little bit more reinforcing in order to be truly effective in the district. I also would like to look at working along with local businesses to advocate for them to hire within the district, because we have a lot of businesses in our district, but a lot of them hire with the outside of the district. So I like to partner with them and even possibly create incentives for them to start hiring within the district. Some of these are really good paying jobs. So that's something else. And another third thing is investing in business development, not only in strengthening small businesses, but in encouraging growth, but also focusing on how we can bring new businesses into the district. I think that those are all three positive ways that we can start to see job growth in our district.
The first one and the last one are like pretty straightforward. Workplace programs, they already have something set in place, so just implementing them or strengthening them is pretty straightforward. And then the last one is funding and development. That would just be pushed for a legislation proposal. But my question is how would you create jobs to be promoted within District 2? Like, how would that look like? Because that one seems a little bit more hands-on, and that one seems a little bit more of the more complicated one, at
It's a
least in my
lot more
opinion.
complicated for sure, and it's something that would just have to be done through relationship building, through going out and talking to the different companies that are within the district, and trying to form an alliance of different companies that agree to at least hire a certain amount of their employees from within the district. And like I said, there could be different incentives or things like that looked at or created, or you could just appeal to the fact that, hey, you're in this district and we'd like you to be a part of the revitalization and the redevelopment of this district. And that starts from jobs, it starts from education, it starts from the the infrastructural things that are going to make sure that these citizens that live in this district see the values and the benefits of you being here. And that helps us all create a better community.
Oh wow. All right, cool. So I like that. So I guess the next one is education. How do you plan on actually increasing education in District 2? Like what do you plan on doing about it? What proposals do you have? Like what is, again, I guess, your plan to try and do this?
So when it comes to education, there's nothing specific that District 2 can do because it's not something that falls under the purview of City Council.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would like to do is partner with the ACCD and also with the SAISD, at least with as many schools that are willing to participate. And I would like to introduce programs that offer evidence-based youth curriculum. There are programs like that out there. I've studied and looked at several programs, and they can be easily implemented into the school. And what they do is they encourage youth to aspire for more. They go and take it's a whole different way that they look at the issues that are affecting our youth, and they look at every youth on an individual basis. So these programs that they take, and it's one time a week that they take them, but they start to engage the youth in finding out what is their true purpose. What is their calling? Every single one of us has something that we're great at, something that's our talent, that's our calling. These programs identify that. And then once they help you identify what your purpose is, what your calling is, then they help you start identifying what avenues you take to get that calling. How should you be in order to obtain that calling? They help give you vision, and that vision helps to pull the students through. And these programs have been studied over and over, and they have a huge success rate and transformational development, meaning that it's permanent. The change you see doesn't just happen on a temporary basis. They actually take these youth from whatever state they are, many of them at risk,
Mm-hmm.
and they developed them and changed them to where they now see a future for themselves. They're now striving to dress better, talk better, educate themselves, do the thing that is going to take for them to achieve the success rates in life. And I think through implementing programs like that, that's how we're going to see success. We're going to have to change the way we look at education.
Okay. All right. So yes, I had no idea about any of that actually. I was like, that's interesting. So essentially, I just want to make sure I understand. You would reach out to these programs and try, and they what would they do? They just would you would negotiate. You would be like the mediator between like the school and the program, or like the school is and the district itself.
So this could be done in a couple ways. One is through advocating with the schools and letting them come in and see the program and seeing how many of them are willing to work this into their curriculum, even if it's a pilot phase to see how the success rate.
Mm-hmm.
And then another way that this could be done is through the city level, through either funding of nonprofits that will offer this same teaching,
Mm-hmm.
or even through the city hosting classes itself. So these classes can be implemented in several different ways, and that's one of the things that's really good about them. They're very flexible and versatile. It could be your local community centers. It could be these programs, can be duplicated, and they have fluidity. They're very cultural, competent. They take everything into understanding. They don't just look at justice as just one person. They understand that justice is an individual. Justice is not can't just be thrown into a box. We have to understand what drives justice. We have to understand where he comes from, what his background is, why he ticks the way he does.
Mm-hmm.
Then in understanding that, we start to rebuild. And this, I mean, it's very positive, and there's a lot of success in these programs.
Cause yeah, that's because like okay, so I'll say this, like education is like a big thing for like me, obviously, as a YouTuber who kind of like does a lot of random stuff, but like also, you know, loves educating and loves like doing research and learning about different things and stuff like that. Hence why we're having this conversation, and hence why I have some of the educational videos I do on my channel. This was an interesting one because I saw on your platform that you wanted to handle immigration, right? And I was like, that's very
Uh,
interesting because what exactly does that mean? Because like I was like, okay, are we talking about But immigration usually happens through cities like Laredo and stuff like that. But I guess they come into San Antonio. Are we talking about like immigration status or immigration immigrated families that live within District Two?
I don't think it said handling immigration. What we want to do is just make sure that our immigration population doesn't get overlooked. We want to offer services to the our undocumented citizens. And it is just very simple services like English classes, teaching them how to speak the language, because the more that they can speak the language, the easier it is for them to find different opportunities and different things that could be the resources that could be right here in the community. And some of what I've seen, because when I go out, I take care of, the community, and some of our community here is undocumented citizens. And I don't believe that we should only take care of people that have, documentation. When I go out and deliver food, I don't ask for green cards, I just see somebody they're hurting and you give them food. And so I like to make sure that our city is doing at least as much as we can to the law that the law will allow when it comes in making sure that some of these people are not looked over. We've seen people that are working and they're making $200 a month, and they live in apartments where there's boards covering holes in the floor. So, they're already an overlooked population. We'd like to know what we can do as a city to make sure that there are some resources that are being available and some attention being focused in that area.
Okay, all right, yeah. So that's that. I'm so glad I had that question because I was like, I'm like, all it said because like when I was looking this up, your platform said that you wanted to work on increasing jobs, increasing education, and work on immigration. And I was like, work on immigration? What does that mean? So okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, so basically you
Yeah,
just
if you
want to.
go back, it has developed more. I think that was when Joseph was still building it out and we were still going, and we were kind of brainstorming and going back and forth on not only the things that we wanted to do, but also pairing that up with what could be done.
Yeah,
And so we had to make sure that we were falling in line of what city council purview would be.
that was a perfect way to like just sum it up and look at it because I don't think a lot of people think of immigration when they think of city council or even let alone San Antonio. Like, because they when we I like me, I think most people thought immigration. Oh, that means people coming in. I don't think people have really noticed, or there hasn't really been a huge light as far as local government is concerned, where you shine this light on immigration and what it's like to live as an immigrant within the United States, even if they're here like legally. Because like I think a lot of
Right.
people think that immigrants are illegal, and it's like no, they're not illegal. You know, they have green cards or visas or what have you, and stuff like that. But because they don't get all the benefits and they still have to pay, I think, more taxes than the average citizen to be here on their visa or something like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, there's definitely some huge disparities there.
Yeah.
And when you go out and see it, it really is heartbreaking, and it makes you open your eyes to some of the problems that are really on the ground.
So those are like the big things and stuff like that. And it sounds like you have a lot planned for like District Two and stuff like that, ways to uplift it and all that stuff. So sidelining from this, I hear a lot of people, and it's just it's an overwhelming amount of people. So we have to address this, regardless of how we all feel about it. We have to address it. You are part of the Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people do like that. It's very, very, very controversial and stuff like that. And I've heard it from conservatives and people that are just from my family, from people. Your name gets brought up, and he's all like, "Well, he's a Black Lives Matter person," and I was like, okay, so I want to, for both my family at home and for the random people who I see when they write these articles or they comment or they say something. I want to hear it from the word of the mouth. You are part of the Black Lives Matter movement. What does the Black Lives Matter movement, both the organization, the movement, and the actual like meaning, like the word itself, what do those three things mean to you? Because I don't know about you, but for me, those are three different things, just separately.
They're
But
complete three different things, and I'm
yeah,
glad you brought that up because we get all the time it gets like
all
jumbled
jumbled
together.
together and stuff.
It's
Yeah.
all together, but it's three different things. The organization is the organization itself.
Mm.
I don't even have any idea about the organization. I hear a lot of different things about the organization, but to tell you the truth, I've never studied their organization because we've always been focused on the Black lives that are right here in our community. So we never, look to them for any type of leadership, guidance, anything like that. For me, on a local level, what it means when I say Black Lives Matters, it's no different than a push and a fight for civil rights. So when people have a trouble understanding what is Black Lives Matters, it's civil rights. It's the modern civil rights movement. And it's no different than if you look at essentially everything that we're asking for,
Mm-hmm.
you marry that back to the civil rights movement, and you'll see that they were asking for the same exact thing. Martin Luther King fought against police brutality. Martin Luther King fought against oppression. So
Mm-hmm.
all of these things that we're fighting against today, they still go back to what they were fighting for and pushing for then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when I hear about, what is the Black Lives Matter movement, it's the civil rights movement of 2020.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So that's okay. So the for you, the movement and the word are like that is what it is. It is just dealing with what we've been dealing with for the past 50 years, essentially. You know.
That's what it is to me. It's dealing with and fighting and pushing for. And it's not to say we haven't made a progress in certain areas, but it's the continuum. It's the continuous push
To
for
be
those
better.
rights.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's kind of like how I view it. I don't view the movement and the word as two different. I view those two things as two separate things. So the organization is the organization, right? Because there is, for those of you who don't know, organization called Black Lives Matter, and they do their own thing. And basically the organization is resources and information, right? So if you go to
Right.
like blacklivesmatter.org or something like that, it's basically just a link with a bunch of resources and different organizations within different states and cities. Now, if we're looking at like Black Lives Matter, the movement, I agree with you. It's the civil rights movement. It's the movement that has been existing since America has pretty much been founded, all the way from slavery to Black Crow laws and segregation to current redlining that still exists within Louisiana. Check out my Janelle Banks video for that one. We actually talk all about it. in that little interview, which is great. She's also an amazing black comedian. She's hilarious. I love her to bits, and she's awesome. But so like we've only been dealing with it for like 48 years, and still we're seeing the same problems, the same things. It's just become more abstract because we dealt with it within the 90s as well, and now we're dealing it with all of this when it came head in 2020, and now continuing on into 2021. And then for me, the word Black Lives Matter is just simple. Take it literally as it is. Black Lives Matter. like
Yeah.
a black life is a life worth living, right? like just like any life is worth living. But if we look at a systemically marginalized race being suppressed and pushed down, we should all rally behind those lives because those lives are no less. The fact that they're being treated less is the reason why I feel like we have the saying Black Lives Matter. So for me, there are three
Right.
separate things. There is a line that threads them all together, but they each have their own individual purpose. One's the idea, the other is the movement, and the other is the organization. So yeah.
Exactly.
But anyway, sorry, enough of my rant.
Now you said that perfectly.
I'm going to double back and tie it into this. Watch this transition. Mayor Ron Nierenberg, I don't know if I pronounced his name right or not. It's a very hard last name. I saw this on multiple things. It's actually the biggest thing you're known for, and kind of how you've got like what I see your name is recognized, because it's like, I swear there's been like 5 or 6 different articles done about it, and there's like 3 videos on this. So you got like spearheaded to the front with this. You guys were in like, I believe, a town hall meeting or a council meeting or something, and you basically voiced your concerns. And Ron Nierenberg said back to you that he would keep in contact with you and he would talk with you every single day. Direct words. This is a direct quote. That he said he would meet you every day until you feel like your voices were heard. And so I guess my question is, do you guys feel like your voices are heard? Has he contacted you every single day? What's your guys' relationship? Because he made that a public statement. He wanted to make sure, and we, politicians, mayors, and people like that, they can just say things to say things. But this is something that, like, accountability is a thing, no matter what party you're in, no matter where you're at. So I want to
No
know.
doubt,
Like,
I get asked that. I get
yeah,
asked that pretty frequently.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
good. I'm asking it again.
Yeah, no, I get asked that pretty frequently. This is what I can say is that Nuremberg has been accessible. We don't talk on an everyday basis, but if I reach out to him, then he responds. If
Okay.
I reach out to his staff, they respond. When he made that commitment from the beginning, he gave me his personal contact information, and said, hey, I'm committed to working through these issues with you. He made it clear from the very first day we talked, there are some things that I'll be able to do. There's something that I cannot do. There's something that I can't do, but I'll help you get them done, or I'll point you in the right direction. And that's the commitment that I'm making to you. So what I can say is that he has stayed true to those commitments. As far as, if I reach out to him, he does respond. If I need an answer, and I reached out to him on several instances, when the black jogger got arrested, different issues like that, I reached out to him and he's always been responsive. He's always led me to the people that I need to talk to. So I can say that he has kept his word in that.
All right,
It's
cool.
not every single day, but
But when you need him, you got him on
yes,
speed dial.
it's not a daily. But I will say, at the beginning, it was
Mhm.
a very frequent. We were
Wow.
talking maybe 3, 4, 5 times a week,
Wow.
both in person or over the phone, about these different issues and what was at the core of them, and where they stand, where they lead, what control city government has, what control the state plays, and what control the federal level plays. And that's what led us to start advocating at the state level,
Oh wow.
because we
So
started understanding that a lot of the changes we want done, the only thing that city council can offer us is band-aids, ordinances, and temporaries. But the government and the governor is who's going to overrule those, because there's state laws in place that supersede the city laws. So now we're advocating and we're speaking in the Capitol on trying to repeal some of those laws that are in place that are barriers to the accountability that we're trying to achieve.
I guess what I'll say, just more shameless self promotion right here or something like that. But hey, go check on why is city council so important. There's actually I talk a little bit about what mayors can do and the limitations to their powers depending on the mayoral system. We're talking to hopefully a potential District 2 counselor right now, and you can see what his job entails and the responsibilities and ways to interact with city council to get the most of the stuff done. So okay, so that's good. So that's very interesting to hear because it's like I was actually coming in it through a pessimistic lens. If I'm being honest, I was gonna be like, oh, he probably said that, and then just immediately was just like never followed up, never contacted. You're just like. It was just to save face, but it's nice to know that he actually followed through. He actually did what he needed to do, and that you guys, I would say, have a good relationship to this day. Or
I would say it's a fairly decent one. It's not like we're best friends or anything, but I would consider it just a working relationship. I feel that I feel that he's just been straight up as far as what he will, won't, or can't do. And I do feel that part of that is also in the reason that we've been so successful in keeping it the way it is because I really genuinely feel he understands and favors our cause. But another thing is that I think he also knows that me being me, that I have no problem quickly calling it out if that's not the case. If I felt that we were reaching out and we needed something done on behalf of the community and I wasn't getting a response, then I would quickly say, hey, you said right here you would not rest until we were satisfied, and we still aren't satisfied, because even though we have made some steps,
they're very
we,
small.
we, we they're small, and we know that there's still a lot more left to go. But also, I'll give him this is that he knows that too. When we've spoken, he has said that there's still a lot to be done, but it's not like it's overnight or one pill or I can snap my fingers and it's done. But I will commit to working through till the end. And like you said, that could be politician fluff. It could be anything. I don't ever allude or disillude myself into believing what a politician tells me.
Mm-hmm.
But what I always try to do is keep a clear mind and say, you know what, I'll take you at your word. Mm-hmm. And until you show me differently, then I'm going to give you a chance, because I went in at the beginning with the pessimistic attitude and I'm like, oh, you think you're going to, give me. And I was just taken aback by the fact that when I looked and seriously sat down, I genuinely felt that I was talking to somebody who favored our cause. And a lot of people give him flack because, he put his fist up on TV and they say, well, you had a lot of energy there. Where is that energy continued? And I do understand them and I understand the feeling there, because I understand feeling like, we've been as a whole, not only Black people, but the Latino population and various other populations. We've all had our times of just being held down and oppressed. So we all feel that sense of urgency when addressing our concerns. I do feel that he's a person who's trying to get things handled. I just think that it's not as quick as we would like them.
Yeah,
And I understand that because I came from being on that side of wanting like now.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Like as a person who actually like works in politics outside of just interviewing, the reason for anyone at home who's wondering how I'm able to interview people like Pharaoh Clark or the other people that I will be interviewing in the other videos that will pop up later on my channel, it's because I, like Pharaoh Clark, work in activism, community organizing, and community management. So I just get to like meet these people and stuff like that. And I have to say, after being in several different kinds of meetings, working on policies and drafting up like certain types of legislation, it is a slow and arduous, sometimes almost ridiculous process because of the channels and meetings and things you have to go through, where you're just like, why can't we just get this done? You have to go through like 7 different channels just to get something considered. So
Mhm.
if anyone's wondering, again, please check out the council video of why city council is important. We go about the process in a very general sense because it does change depending on the tasks being asked and what city council member has to do. But the process itself, once I like got done finishing the script and reading it, it's like, wow, there's a lot of steps before anything gets even considered, let alone passed. And that's assuming that it goes through without any resistance. So,
Exactly. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
so I will say this: you have been an advocate for police reform on the May 1st ballot. Fix SAPD has successfully gotten 174 on the May ballot. How do you feel about 174 being out there? And like, what do you feel about the contract as a whole and police reform as a whole? What are your? Do you have any plans for District Two? So I know I asked several different questions in that stuff like that, but I felt like it feels all kind of under the same umbrella.
Um, I'll start with like I think that 174 being on the May ballot is a positive thing. I think that regardless of what side you're on when it comes to that the police accountability aspect, you should want to be informed. You should educate yourself, and then you should have the right to vote on it. When these laws were passed, many citizens did not have the right to vote on it. It was unfair, and what ended up happening is we ended up getting a lopsided agreement. Now, what we're asking for is for the citizens to be able to educate themselves on what's going on, to go back to the ballot and make an informed decision on whether you want this law repealed or whether you don't. So I feel that in a democratic society that, we should welcome that. And regardless of what you think, you should be happy that it's on the ballot, because if you're against it, go be against it on May 1st. But if you're for it, as I am, then go be for it on May 1st, because it's not this initiative has absolutely zero to do with being anti-police. I'm not anti-police. We worked with police officers all throughout the summer in negotiations. And so I'm the farthest from an anti-police. We're against bad police officers. We want police accountability. We want transparency in our police department. We don't want a system where the police officers overrule the government. And so those are the things that we're asking for with 174. And I think that that's something that can hit home with a lot of citizens.
Yeah, so I guess then going into police reform, what are your plans for if you become District 2 as counselor? What are your plans for police reform? What would you like to see implemented, or what would you like to change that's not there, or that you would like to expand upon?
I would like to just continue what we've already been pushing for and advocating, which is transparency. I know that McManus did a change in his body cam policy,
Mm-hmm.
and it made it I think in 60 days they will release it. But I'd also like to see a system put together that automatically records body cams and stores them on footage. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that it's something that it belongs to the citizens, because we pay the officers, we pay for the equipment that they carry, and we pay them to do a job, which is serve the community. And I believe that access and transparency to the footage of what they're doing on a daily basis is very vital to that transparency that I want to see in the government. So it'd be just continuing to advocate for the things we've been pushing for all summer long,
Mm-hmm.
which would just be clear and transparent police department. I'd like updated websites that allow the citizens to go in and look and interact and find out a little bit more about the police officers that are serving their community. I would like them to be able to leave complaints if they need to leave complaints anonymously. Currently, they can't leave anonymous complaints. I'd like to fix that. So things like that, but these are the things we've already been advocating for. I just will continue to advocate with the voice on the dais.
Expanding upon that, I know our last conversation we dealt with cite and release and I stands. The negotiations, I believe, have already happened. Either they happened, they were happening in March, or they're going to happen in May. So we
Um,
were talking about cite and release because I know that was one of the things you were pushing and stuff like that. And I know after our conversation, because it got a little complex and stuff like that, and there was a lot of concerns and a lot of questions. I was wondering if your opinions of cite and release have changed. Are you thinking about expanding cite and release? Are you thinking about improving it, throwing it out in favor of something else? Like there's a lot to be done within that area of police reform.
I'm in favor of cite and release.
Okay.
I added it actually to my platform for the fact that not only do I think it deals with the over incarceration of our communities,
Hmm.
but I also believe that not only does it benefit the county without having they save a lot of money when they reduce the cost of booking fees,
Hmm.
but it stops the devastating pressure that it puts on these families that I feel a lot of families are already suffering or living below the poverty level, and then they get arrested for a minor offense and they're forced to pay bail, they're forced to go through this system that continues to kind of assault their ability to live.
Yeah.
And so I'm in favor of cite and release.
So I guess my question then, since you're in favor of it, is would you like to see it expanded, like Austin and San Marcos, that expanded cite and release to cover more misdemeanor and minor crimes rather than, because I know San Antonio cite and release is one of the more limited ones as far as misdemeanors and minor crimes or minor offenses go. As a person running for District 2, would you like to, if you do get elected, and you become the District 2 counselor, would you push to expand that, or would you want to keep it as is? Because I know the City Council in San Marcos has expanded it. They expanded
Do
it
you
in
know
2017.
what specifically they have in theirs that we don't have in ours?
I believe they expanded and added graffiti. They added all drugs, not just. So I think it was Exhibition A, B, and C drugs. So they added all drugs. Where I think, as for us, we only have like Exhibition C drugs. I think, which is like marijuana, and like not the hard drugs, like the lighter drugs, like pill, like Ambien and stuff like that, where it's not heavy drugs. They expanded on, I think, petty theft up to, I think, $600 or $1,000, and property damage, which we do not have currently right now. It's a very hot button issue because a lot of people. I remember the last conversation.
Mhm.
And check that video out as well. We go in more detail. I'm just trying to remember from all of that. But I know that they expanded with graffiti, property damage. San Marcos has all drugs, not just a few drugs. And it basically they've expanded. It's the first city that has expanded, out of, like, Dallas hasn't expanded this far, Houston hasn't expanded this far, and they've seen a major success in their reduction of crime and their reduction of offenses and stuff like that due to this expansion. Because they have reform programs which they've implemented along with cite and release. So when they do cite and release, they do reform programs as well. So I was wondering if you wanted to expand it, because I believe that's a purely city council issue.
Right. I can tell you that the only two issues that I would have when it comes to the cite and release would
Mm-hmm.
be the property damage and graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
But I would actually want to look to cities like you were talking about, like San Marcos, that have already done away with those or added those to the list, I'll say,
Yeah.
and see what their numbers say. The thing that concerns me with property damage and graffiti as opposed to the other ones
Mm-hmm.
is they're not victimless crimes.
Okay.
Um, somebody somebody still suffers, and I think we talked about this before, like the store owner. So
Yeah.
if I'm the store owner who has $1,000 worth of graffiti added to my business, that's not exactly a victimless crime. I have to pay for that, and I have to pay for it now. I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait till you go through the system and you go through all these things and then it comes. However, I also think, arresting people and locking them up for graffiti, I think that's kind of, asinine as well. So I would like to look at it and kind of look and see what the statistics show on when you change those. Did the graffiti in the area spike up? Did
Mm-hmm.
it stay the same? Did it go down? The,
Okay.
the the programs you're talking about, that's something I'd be interested in. The reform programs. What do you do with them when you do, get them from doing graffiti? How do you change their pattern? How do you get them to start focusing on other areas to express their art? What can we do as a city to create spaces for them to enhance and improve their art, but also show them that there's a responsible way to get it done? I myself love murals. I like to see a lot of the graffiti artists turned into muralists.
Okay.
So I do think that there's a lot of room there. But that's the thing that I would be concerned about and want to look into before I just voted yes on adding those.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Also, I just want to say, if you guys didn't think Pharaoh Clark was busy and he doesn't do, there's like 20 different phone calls right now that just happened, and I am so sorry. Tell every single one of
No,
those
no,
people that are
no, not at
contacting
all.
you that I
I
apologize.
keep three phones at all times.
But I would like to say, so I guess I'll just throw this idea out there for you, because I have my own personal feelings about site and release. But I will
Right.
say this: if you do decide to like look into it and stuff like that, and I would
Oh, I
invoke,
definitely am
yeah,
looking into it.
like look into San Marcos's site and release program. I think it's great that like you can attach a rehabilitation thing to that, and I think one of the beautiful things about it is like expanding it to see that is a happy medium, especially if you could do a reform thing where like that person did the graffiti, right? So instead of locking them up and throwing them in jail, instead of giving them a fine or something, put them in rehabilitation. They work for the shop for like a month or something like that, or they clean up
Mhm.
the graffiti they did. They do some type of community service that helps uplift the community rather than tear it down. And then finding a program that could help them channel whatever's going on in that. It's about like I guess resource management and seeing the different avenues and programs that can do it, which is why I say like San Marcos is, again, I think the first city that do it, and there's 4 cities that are currently going with the site and release tacked on to the reform program. And I think those are two things that would greatly help, especially if we are going to expand site and release.
Yeah, no, that's something I definitely would be interested in because I don't think that it's something that is a severe crime, but I am just concerned about the explosion of it happening everywhere,
Yeah,
and then being, coming back to being like, well, you're the one that said it should happen. I'd like to make sure that
you
that
can
if
see
you
that
do it, that
reduction
there's a
go
way to
down.
see a reduction. I'd like to be proactive on that.
Okay. So I guess then going on, and we are going on to the last question. You were on the broadcast a while back, 2019, August of 2019, because I was hoping that there would be some useful information, something that you haven't said, or anything like that, and whatnot. But there wasn't really nothing that was there that I could like really sink my teeth into, or it wasn't already a question I hadn't asked. And so I just want to know 2 questions really. Like what was it like to be on there? Like how'd you get on there and all that stuff like that? What was the whole entire thing? And what is your relationship with Brockhouse now?
Okay, so being on there would be like bleeding and feeling like you're in the water, and you just know that there's a shark swimming around, or you feel that way. That's how I felt. I felt that there was gonna, I just didn't know what the angle was gonna be because I was getting calls immediately that as soon as people found out I was gonna go on there, and they were saying, "Do not do that show. I don't care what you're being told. Don't do that show. Do not do it. Do not do it."
Mm-hmm.
So you went in a little apprehensive, wondering, "Wait a minute, what's going on? What's the angle here?" But I will say that during the show, that nothing happened that made me feel that it went left or that he did attack or come at us in a certain way. I do think that we stand on complete opposite sides of the Black Lives Matters issue.
Yeah.
He's very, very heavily pro police, which is no issue because he raised the question on there: can you be Black Lives Matters and pro police?
Yes.
I said, yes, you can, because they're the two issues are not hand in hand.
Yeah.
But
They don't
Black Lives
equate.
Matter is dealing with police brutality, not police officers in general.
Yeah.
But he's very heavy pro police, so he has a different view when it comes to understanding, the fight. And I can understand that maybe you didn't grow up in the same environment, you don't see the same things. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody I feel operates based off of their understanding of issues. So
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't come up from a community like yours and I've never seen this, maybe to me I've never seen that, so it doesn't exist, and I think you're making it up.
Mm-hmm.
But I always feel that just because you don't see someone's pain doesn't mean that it's not there.
Yeah.
But I think that I went in there apprehensive. I thought like, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? But I also was happy to be there at the same time because I feel that we got a lot of time and spent a lot of time speaking to ourselves, preaching to the choir, or people that were like-minded and thought how we thought about our situation.
Mhm.
We didn't get a lot of time in front of audience that thought differently.
Polar
And
opposite. The comments on
Paula,
there are
yeah. So,
crazy.
so being on there, I felt like at least I'm able to be in front of a different audience that thinks completely opposite of me. And
Mm,
even if I'm able to change one mind,
mm,
then I've done my job and helped the movement, helped progress the movement in some way.
mm.
Because, speaking to people that already agree with you, that's one thing, but change your minds from somebody who's completely opposite, that's a whole nother job.
Well,
And as far as us now, I still have Brockhouse's number. Because he reached out to me for the show. Every once in a while, he'll say something, or we'll respond to each other on something that happens in the city. Like, for instance, during um, the current situation that happened with the snow crisis,
yeah.
he actually had reached out to Josie,
Mm.
and he said he had a lot of food that he was trying to, make sure it got out to all the different spots.
Oh,
And he
wow.
knew that she was out doing a lot of stuff like coordinating the different areas that we needed to deliver food to.
Mm.
So he actually donated a bunch of food to her for us to use in our distribution. So we've worked together in that essence on one or two things, but I will tell you that as far as our views are concerned, we're still on the opposite sides of the fence. But
You
I
know.
think that, I think there was a thought that maybe if he reworded things, that we would change our opinions, our stances on things.
Yeah.
But I mean, our stances are pretty firm.
Yeah.
Although we're reasonable and willing to sit down with anybody, we're pretty firm on how we feel, how we believe.
Oh, yeah.
And for us, you have to believe Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just simple. This doesn't mean that all lives don't. People kept saying that, are you racist? Well, how can we be racist? We have literally every single race on our team.
Yeah.
But we're speaking right now and saying this, and we needed people that could stand behind us and say that. And I think even he, if I remember correctly, was against the fact that Ron had stuck his fist up in solidarity, and he was saying that he wouldn't have made that decision. But I think that
Yeah.
goes to the heart of the issue, because we need somebody who will put their fist up.
Put their fist up.
I will tell you this though. I think that genuinely, I think that there was a level of respect earned on both sides.
Oh, definitely.
I think that we both went in not really knowing, because we had both, said things about each other on the side. So I think we both went in not knowing how we were gonna, perceive and receive each other. And we left understanding that, okay, we're on two opposite ends. We don't see eye to eye. But at the same time, I respect that he is a man that sticks by his decision. He feels that he has his solid reasoning and he's not backing down. I feel that I'm a man that's sticking by my decision. I'm not backing down. So it's almost like when those back in the day, when those two generals, they meet on the battlefield and they have to, sit and talk and agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of how it was. We left understanding that although we didn't see eye to eye, there was still a mutual level of, I still respect the fact that
What you're doing and stuff like
entitled
that.
to
No
your
hate, no hate. Just
There
like,
was no
oh,
hate,
yeah,
no.
yeah, of
The
course.
hate wasn't there.
Yeah.
If you get him on here, I will tell you one thing I'm interested in, because I hear he has a plan for the Black community, so I would love to hear what it is.
That would be very interesting.
You'd be the perfect person to ask him. So what is your plan for the Black community?
I wouldn't let him backpedal. I don't let things slide. I may like joke and stuff like that because I don't want this to be like.
Yeah, because you want them to see the person.
I want them to see the person, and I also want to make sure that even though I get to see the person, I want to make sure that no, you're not allowed to wiggle out of this question. Either you're straightforward with me or you're not. That's just how it is. Whether you're my friend, whether you're my foe, no matter what it is, I'm like, no, we're gonna get to the bottom of this one way or another. So
well, you're pretty straightforward. We met that way.
Oh yeah. Oh, did I don't think I have. I think I like lightly touched on it, but I don't know if I have told the story of how I met you. I want to know your side of it actually, if you don't mind, because it was literally my first meeting that I had ever been to. I didn't know who this person was. I was just coming up, and everyone was trying to talk. And so I think I like tried to. I don't know if I was like frustrated because I was trying to make a point, but like I kept getting skipped over, or something. but
I
I
think
think
it
I
was a
interrupted
word we were
you.
discussing.
Like yeah, like yeah. How do you remember it? Before I go into it, how do you remember it?
I think that it was dang man. I think
It
it
was
was
so long ago.
verbiage that we were discussing. What particular words we should use in
Oh
certain.
yeah, we were discussing like what words we should use and how we should like.
It was like a huge coalition meeting trying to come to the together on a common ground of where we should stand.
It was a bunch of people from all different walks of life and stuff like that. It was crazy because we all came from different perspective, and I was invited to this meeting. Right? I know. I like if retelling this story, I'm the asshole. I am a nobody that was invited, welcomed into a community that had a bunch of people who had been in there, some previous counselors from years ago, some part of like the Black Panthers, some former counselors, some former like mayors and different church groups and all this other stuff. So you have this diversity of people with their own idea of what's right and what should we should move forward, all trying to figure out what to do. So imagine that, and then imagine someone like me with strong opinions and a equally strong personality that doesn't like to let shit slide, no matter who they are, and no matter how powerful their position is, uh, coming out and just bombing it. The person who invited me was so embarrassed. I remember, like, because I was like, especially when I was going after you, I was like, listen, like, listen here. This is how I feel. This is what I'm gonna say. And the person's like, you can't do that. Do you know who he is? Do you know how long he's been within this community? Do you know what he's done for this community? And I'm all like, no.
But that's what we need. That's one of the things I liked about you because you have to have that. It's one of the things that I feel I bring to the table. Like it doesn't matter who this person is, what they've done, because we're all human, we're all people. We're all part of the same fight. We're pushing for, equality. And so you have to have that. So that was one of the things that actually made me respect you was the fact that, hey, he had, regardless of how he felt, he was willing to come out, stand in front of a room of strangers and literally go to bat for this. It was crazy, but I loved it. I loved it. I did.
I'm so glad, and now we have this like I would say amazing relationship and stuff like that. At least pretty good, and we're able to talk very candidly to one another while not taking any of it personally. I think that's sorely missing in a lot of these discussions. Is even if we're on opposite sides of how we think, even if we're on the same side of how we think, when we have these conversations, we got to remember it's about the subject matter and not about the person. Despite the fact that in this case, it is kind of about the person because you're running for district counselor too. But it is separate. I would argue your work persona as Pharaoh Clark is different from your actual persona as Pharaoh Clark. Like the personality is still the same, but one is obviously professional. This is like my job, just like this is my job right here, right? Like I am like this in real life, but I would argue this persona of me is an exaggerated or my best foot forward versus how I am in like my real life, which I can be quiet, I can be calm. I'm not always a spaz all the time. I'm sorry to disappoint you guys. But yeah,
Not
but
always
like
the life of the party.
not always the life of the party, but it is one of those things that like when we talk about this, we know it's about the subject. It's about what pushing our best foot forward.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that's why I said I think we left with the mutual respect because that was one of the things that it was like, we both went in there just ready to go. We were ready to go toe to toe. Like, like,
WWE here in San
I'm very
Antonio.
passionate. I'm very passionate about, what we believe in and what we're trying to do, what we're fighting for. So I went in there like it was just gonna be this, like I'm ready to go and we're ready to have this and hash it out and hopefully it ends up good. But I wasn't sure, I'm like, hey, whatever you throw, we're ready to go. And so it was really refreshing to just be able to have that conversation out and not so much of a battle and just a straight let's present our sides. You don't believe this, but let me explain to you why we believe this. Let me explain to you what we stand for, because a lot of it is miseducation. So it's best that you if you don't know, that you get with somebody who does know or who is more involved, or follow someone like Justice who presents videos that kind of explains certain things, because a lot of people, they just go off of what they hear from the news stories or things like that, And they'll take a whole paragraph, pull out one sentence, and that's the story. So,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't get the full picture. And if you hear the full paragraph, then you'll understand, oh, wait a minute, this is where they stand. This is what they believe. This is what they're pushing for. So I think that that's something that was pretty important.
Well, shoot, man. I feel like that's a beautiful note to end on. And I guess, yeah, thanks so much for being on here. Real quick, as always, I just want to say, where can they find you? What last words do you gotta say and stuff like that? Do you have any last words or anything like
You
that?
can find me on my website at votepharaoh.com. That Pharaoh is Pharaoh. You can find me on Facebook at Pharaoh Clark. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, or you can reach me at my phone number, 210-994-2462. Text is always usually best because I'm usually very busy, but I will always get back to you regardless. Um, Other than that, I just wanted to thank you for having me on, and hopefully can continue doing these even when I get in office, because these would be good to keep the community informed.
Oh, that would be great. You making promises here.
No, because it's good. We
Bro.
need different avenues to keep the community engaged. I think podcast is a wonderful way of keeping them on top of different issues that are
Oh
going on.
yeah. Oh yeah. I hope. Yeah. I hope you get elected, man. Like if you do, we'll be able to do that. I'm sure there's gonna be tons and tons of stuff that is gonna be happening, especially
Oh,
if with you in office. A
yeah, because
lot of the
I'm
pushing, and
running. I
I'll have
can
a
tell
lot
you,
of
I'm hitting the
questions.
ground running.
But yeah, so and hey, I know he said that a lot of fast, but the links of everything that Pharaoh just said will be down below, as well as links to some of the stuff that I got going on, especially the other videos. And you could also check somewhere around here. I probably should have repositioned this a little bit better, but I'm sure the videos will come up on the video card. I'll just edit this out. I'm just rambling right now. But yeah, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was very informative for all of y'all. Thank you again, Pharaoh Clark. You are just an amazing person just to come sit down and have this conversation with me and stuff like that. I wish you all the best in your running. Don't forget, vote May 1st. Early voting, I believe, is April 19th. That is correct? That is correct.
Correct.
April 19th is early voting. It'll last all the way till April 28th. So vote early, get it out of the way. If not, vote May 1st. And yeah, I'll see you guys all next time. Be kind, be wonderful, and don't forget to be awesome 100%. Bye bye, guys. Oh man.